make banana bread. In the last 2 or 3 years, I fell into this YouTube wormhole called Bon Appetit. Claire Sappitz. Bought this book this weekend because of the very pretty cover. I tabbed all the recipes that I find quite interesting and that I could probably execute. So the first recipe I'm going to try out from Claire's cookbook, Dessert Person here, is going to be the almond butter banana bread. Ta-da! Who knows if mine will look as nice as this. I like this cookbook because the way she lays it out here. So outside of the recipe and the ingredients, she has some hot tips down here just to ensure you have the most success making your baked goods. This matrix here. Here on the y-axis, you have the level of difficulty. Here on the x, you have the time it takes. Today I'll be making the almond butter banana bread, which lands right here. It should take me about an hour and a half and it's level 1. Decided to make this because I have everything at home and 2 very ripe bananas sitting around here. Not prepared to have these fruit flies invade my house. I am not taking off my earrings for that kind of fight. I do not want any flies. In this cookbook, she mentioned she likes to bake with things that are in season, but luckily for us, bananas are around 365 days a year at the grocery store. Active time is 25 minutes. Total time for this recipe, an hour and 35 plus time to cool, and the difficulty is level 1. Very easy. This recipe will make 1 standard loaf, and it looks pretty straightforward, so I don't need a lot of techniques for this. There are no just cooks out there, only bakers who haven't yet been converted. Let's get converted. It is apron time. Gotta protect the fire outfit you wear while you're cooking, you know? Some noteworthy mentions that I've noticed while reading through the ingredients for this. There's no butter in here. Recipe calls for coconut oil. She does use Greek yogurt and some cardamom, which could make this very interesting. And I'm so here for it because I love cardamom. Some good advice that seems like common sense that I read in the book is to make sure you have all the ingredients and tools before attempting to make the recipe. There have been way too many times where I've made something and only halfway through I've realized that I'm missing an ingredient or completely missed a step. So whose fault is that? Mine. It is tool time. So what are we gonna need today? She calls for a standard loaf pan, which is about a 4.5 by an 8.5. But here I have a 10 and a 3. Whisk, some parchment paper. You're gonna need 2 mixing bowls, 1 larger one and 1 slightly smaller. Flexible spatula, measuring cups for dry ingredients, measuring cups like this for liquids, measuring spoons. All right, preheat and set your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm making my list of ingredients with measurements and I'm checking it twice to make sure I have everything I need for this. In the meantime, gather all of your ingredients. Here's what you'll need. 1/3 of a cup of plain Greek yogurt, virgin coconut oil, gently warmed to liquefy and split 2 ways, 1/2 cup for the batter and 1 teaspoon for the almond butter swirl, plus a little to coat your pan. Almond butter split 2 ways, 3 tablespoons for your almond butter swirl and 1/3 of a cup for the batter. 1 1/3 of a cup of flour, sugar split 2 ways, 1 tablespoon for the almond butter swirl and 2/3 of a cup for the batter, baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon, and you'll need 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 cold eggs that have been scrambled, an optional ingredient, 1/2 cup of chopped unsalted roasted almonds, 2 very ripe bananas that have been mashed, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cardamom. What I'm doing now is greasing my loaf pan and then lining it with parchment paper. I want to do it the long way like this with about an inch or 2 of overhang. In the book, there's a picture of the recipe and there's this really pretty almond butter swirl on top. So how we're gonna make it first is gonna take your 3 tablespoons of almond butter or sugar and 1 teaspoon of coconut oil. Ooh. So in here I have mixed together 3 tablespoons of almond butter, my sugar, and 1 teaspoon of coconut oil. Mix until smooth. This is gonna be the pretty almond butter swirl on top of the loaf. Next, we're gonna add our dry ingredients except for the sugar. So that's gonna mean we're gonna add flour, salt, ground cardamom, baking soda, and your baking powder. Do a little mix here of your dry ingredients in your larger bowl. This cardamom smells fire. Set this aside. In this bowl, I have 2 cold eggs that have already been whisked, and then we're gonna combine it with our sugar. Mix your egg and sugar mixture for about 30 seconds until it's slightly thickened and smooth. So now that your sugar and egg mixture is done, next thing we're gonna do is add the rest of the wet ingredients. We have some coconut oil, almond butter, or 2 mashed bananas here, Greek yogurt, and of course, a teaspoon of vanilla. I've added all of the wet ingredients into the bowl. Now it's time to mix. Mix your wet ingredients together. Some lumps are okay. It is now time for when two become one. We're gonna add our wet ingredients to the dry here. Now we're gonna mix this up. Make sure there are no dry spots in here. Sounds a little inappropriate. Final step, I have my chopped almonds here. This is an optional inclusion in your banana loaf. Fold the almonds in. Get your prepared loaf pan, and it's time to fill this baby up. The batter in the pan is nice and smooth now, so I'm gonna dollop the almond butter mixture on top. I have a takoyaki tool here. You could also use the point of a paring knife. Most people have a toothpick. I don't use toothpicks because I never get food in my teeth. Make figure eights in your loaf to make the nice almond swirl. Just finished swirling my almond butter mixture on top of this loaf, and she's looking pretty. She's looking like this. My almond butter banana loaf is gonna go into the oven, which is set at 350 for about 60 to 70 minutes. Claire says in the textbook or the cookbook that it's going to rise at the top, and then also to do the toothpick test where you put it in the center to make sure it comes out clean. I ain't got no toothpicks, so I'm gonna have to improvise. So my little Claire creation is in the oven. It is time to wash dishes. This would not fly at my mom's house. Hello, is anybody Asian out there? This is a wild concept to some people, but let me know if you can relate. Do you wash your dishes and then put it in your dishwasher? Hand wash only. This is not a dishwasher. This is a giant drying rack, okay? I'm checking on my loaf right now, and it looks like she is rising. She is full of confidence, beauty, and grace. Waiting for this thing to bake in the oven, and I thought I'd show you my pink jumpsuit. That's my favorite thing in my closet at the moment. Okay. My mom doesn't exactly hate this jumpsuit, but she told me that I look like I pick garbage. Haters motivate me, Mom. She's ready. Look at that. Let's do this toothpick test. Oh, and my takoyaki tool came out clean. Here she is, born on December 15th at 6:30 p.m. Her name is Almonda. She weighs probably about 2 pounds. Yeah, small one. She's a small girl. Isn't she so cute and pretty? Does it look like Claire's? So Claire's almond butter swirl definitely looks better than mine. I could have definitely done a better job at swirling the almond butter, but she smells good, and don't tell my baby she's ugly. Gosh. She's here, guys. So, gotta cool it for about 20 minutes, and then you're gonna take something like an offset spatula, separate your loaf from the short side of the pan, and then what we're gonna do is lift your parchment paper and pull her out. Look at that. In the cookbook here, it mentions to let this cake cool, but I think this is gonna be the one part where I really don't follow Claire's instructions because I don't have that kind of patience and I wanna eat it now. Alrighty, Almonda is ready for the world. She's ready to be sliced. Let's see how this goes. Okay, which edge am I gonna do? This is a loaf and I didn't think there would be any ASMR, but listen to this. Do you hear this? So my favorite part of a cake or anything, pizza, blah, 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 is anything that touches the edges of a pan. I even like crust on toast. That's quite delicious to me as well. I think I'm gonna start with this side because it has some almond butter in it. Ooh, this is what she looks like inside. You ready? Not focusing, okay. I have a plate here. I'm not an animal. So let's compare what Claire's note says that this loaf is supposed to taste like versus what I actually taste with my Claire creation here. And I quote, hits all the notes, tender, moist, pleasantly sweet, but with a slight, in italics, savory edge from the almond butter. Okay. Word moist shouldn't be used unless you're talking about cake and plant soil. I like the almond inclusion here, so if you ever consider not putting it in there, I think you definitely should because it adds some texture. Really delicious. Goodbye Starbucks banana bread. Claire's description is actually what this loaf turned out to be, so I'm really happy about that. She says it's supposed to be tender. I don't know how I'm supposed to taste or know that, but definitely moist from the coconut oil, and I think the Greek yogurt plays a factor in this, but not overly sweet. And she did mention this in her cookbook that she just wants things just to be just the right amount of sweetness. Almond butter banana bread definitely delivers on that savory note, and I think I really like it and prefer it more than regular banana bread. That almond butter though is just chef's kiss, man. The cardamom that I love, definitely in here too. Smells delicious. Just adds another element I just don't know how to describe. My vocabulary is very limited. Moist. Moist. Okay, verdict. There's a crumb here somewhere. I definitely would make this almond butter banana bread again. It is delicious, it is moist, it is salty, it is sweet, it tastes tropical to me. This cookbook definitely lays everything out. This was a very simple recipe to follow, so I highly recommend it. Everything you probably have in your house already. If your bananas are going bad, go for it. You don't need any crazy tools. It's very simple. Could even mix this with a fork if I wanted to. I would definitely make this almond butter banana bread again, and I don't think I would make it any other way. I'm gonna make myself a cup of tea and enjoy this banana bread now. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!